So far we've seen many things, but in 3 subheadings. The first one was, oh no, leave this gently. The first one was the first row, personal witness. The second one was, exactly, confidence in the message. Exactly. And the third one was, you are wonderful. But Anna, do we have prizes, by the way? You have excellent students. All right, so we'll go to the fourth. No, it was just a...
Yeah, prizes.
Okay. So, fourth one.
Next year.
All right. Fourth one is community and mission. Community and mission. Community and mission. That's our role as new evangelizers. Community and mission is part of the new evangelization. The place of community in new evangelization cannot be underestimated. Remember, Jesus sent them forth 2 by 2. Why? Because iron sharpens iron. We need mutual support. We need to be able to encourage one another. There is a story of a very active parishioner, very active, who at some point stopped coming to church. Weeks became months. And for months he didn't come to church, even though he was an active parishioner. So one day, the pastor went to pay him a visit. And when he arrived at his house, the man was sitting near his fire, by the fireside, because he was cold. So the pastor entered and sat with him by the fireside. And they were talking about different things. Sports, politics, but they didn't talk about church. They were just talking about different topics. And in the course of the discussion, the pastor did something. He removed a red charcoal from the fire and he put it outside, out of the fire. And then they kept talking. And then as they were talking, the red charcoal out of the fire started dying gently. It was dying gently. It was dying gently until it died and only ashes remained. When this man looked at what the priest had done, he said, "Okay, Father, I got your message." What was Father's message? That a charcoal cannot survive outside the fire. When the charcoal is inside, the fire from the other charcoals warm it up and it keeps it alive. So when the charcoal is outside, it dies. So similarly, when you are out of the community, you lose something. You begin to die gradually. Community, therefore, is important because it warms us up. That's why new evangelization is not done or carried out as individuals. It is carried out as a community because we are representing not our personal opinions, but the doctrine or the faith of the Christian community. So we need community. Community allows us to share experiences, to plan new strategies, to listen to one another. Community helps us to know that we are supported, that we are not alone. Community helps us to reach out to those who need to hear the good news. Community therefore lays the foundation for creativity and for innovation. That's why Pope Francis, once again, in Evangelization Gaudium says, pastoral ministry in a missionary key seeks to abandon the complacent attitude that says, we have always done it this way. I invite everyone to be bold and creative in this task of rethinking the goals, structures, style, and methods of evangelization in their respective communities. That means think of goals, structures, style, and methods of evangelization within your respective community. And so the Legion of Mary, the Comitium of St. Matthew's County, is already a community where we think about new evangelization. We think about the strategies, where we share experiences of failures, of successes, where we support one another in the whole project of new evangelization. A proposal of goals without an adequate communal search for the means of achieving them will inevitably prove illusory. The important thing is not to walk alone, but to rely on each other as brothers and sisters, and especially under the leadership of the bishops in a wise and realistic pastoral discernment. Yes, we are sent forth as sisters and brothers. And it is even the way we live as community that will make an impact. That's why I do think that, my brothers and sisters, if we are not able to build community relationships through trust, empathetic listening, this commission cannot stand. We are called to build community. That means we are gifted in different ways. We have different experiences. In no way should some people feel like my opinion counts more than yours, or that I think better than you do. No, that will break the community relationships. If you are always the one who claims to know everything, well, all the others will feel useless and they won't find a reason of coming. Building a community as Legion of Mary requires us to listen to one another. To trust that even if sister didn't go to school, she has something to say as well. Listen to the dull and the ignorant. Even they too have their story, said the desiderata. That means we all have something to say. No one is an expert in new evangelization. We are all called to be experts, but we cannot do it if we don't share, listen, trust. Legion of Mary has got to be a community where there is trust, where there is forgiveness, where there is compassion, where there is empathy. It should be our second family, true or false. That means when we have struggles back at home, challenges with our family, husbands or wives or children, where else should we go to than a community that we believe will listen to us? A community that will understand what we're going through, will encourage us. I need you, sister, I need you, brother, because I'm going through this. That is what makes community. We can't build community where there is dictatorship. We can't build community where there is egoism. We can't build community where there is lack of concern for one another. That's why, as new evangelization, we need to focus on community and mission. It doesn't mean we will agree on everything. It is important that each one should have the freedom to express themselves, because what makes a community is not that we are all in agreement. If you go to a garden and all the flowers have the same color, there is no beauty. What makes the beauty of a garden is the fact that we have green flowers, red flowers, yellow flowers, brown flowers, blue flowers. That's community. The beauty of community is differences. And so we should be tolerant towards differences. There is no way we can think the same, see things the same. And if we all agree on the same thing all the time, there is a problem. It means somehow some people are not themselves. They are pretending, trying to show a nice face. But the good community is where we even disagree in order to agree. Because when you look at the pebbles in water, they are smooth. They are so smooth because they keep hitting themselves. They hit one another. By hitting one another, they are polishing themselves. That's community. We stay together. Differences will appear, but differences are an invitation to listen and to build community. That was the fourth role. The fifth and last one now, before we go to something else, would be the style. The style of the new evangelization. The style. Because the style. The style. Well, we all know how important his style is. I mean, for ladies to appear in public, they need to make sure that they are attractive, they are appealing, they will be accepted by others. So the style matters, the way you appear matters, the style. But what is the style we're talking about here? The style of communication. The style of communication. Communicating the good news is challenging, especially in this age of social media. Because the people we might approach to share the good news probably have strong arguments from social media to counteract your message. Because people are feeding themselves with false information. People hate the church, not for what it is, but for what they have seen on CNN and Fox News and ABC and MBNC or whatever. But are those official channels of the church? If you depend on what the secular media says about the church, my sister, my brother, your faith is at risk. Because those social media or those TV channels have their own agenda. And their agenda is not always for the church. And so they will pick and choose what suits their agenda. And so if you feed your faith only from what you watch on those social media mediums, it's going to destroy your faith and you will have questions. Oh, I heard this about the Pope. Oh, I heard this about the church. Is it true? And then you are worried. Where was your source? CNN or NBC? So, if you really want to be well informed, go to the right channels of the church because they communicate what the church is. So, this makes new evangelization challenging. And for that reason, this is what Pope Francis says with regards to the challenges from the social media. In today's world of instant communication and occasionally biased media coverage, the message we preach runs a greater risk of being distorted or reduced to some of its secondary aspects. In this way, certain issues which are part of the church's moral teaching are taken out of the context which gives them their meaning. And the biggest problem is when the message we preach then seems identified with those secondary aspects, which, important as they are, do not in of themselves convey the heart of Christ's message. And that's pathetic. The social media distorts the message because, like I said, they have their own agenda, which is not always in line with the agenda of the church. And so consequently, what they make us to see or to hear is not the heart of it. I'll give you an example. In 2009, March 2009, the Holy Father, Pope Benedict, was carrying out an apostolic visit to my country, Cameroon, and Angola. At that time, that's when there was a lot of controversial analysis about the church's stance with regards to contraceptives and condoms as a way of fighting AIDS. So on the flight to Cameroon, as always, the Holy Father was giving interviews. So journalists were asking him questions. And one journalist asked a question precisely about the church's stance on contraceptives and everything related. And the Holy Father said, AIDS is very serious, and the church is doing a lot through the San Efigio community and many other means. The church is doing a lot to care for the victims of the disease. But I do not think that the solution lies on condoms and preservatives. My sisters and brothers, that was just the sentence that the whole social media took. The sentence that I do not think that condoms and contraceptives can solve the problem. That was what they picked, and to be honest, it almost spoiled the Holy Father's visit. He was still going. And the whole social media all over the world were talking about it as if that was the only thing the Pope said. So the social media is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing and a curse. But it's up to us now to be critical towards the way we use it. So the Holy Father, Pope Francis, says we need to be realistic and not assume that our audience understands the full background to what we are saying, or is capable of relating what we say to the very heart of the gospel, which gives it meaning, beauty, and attractiveness. So you will go to someone and you will want to present the church's doctrine, but they will quote what they have heard from any means on the social media against what you are saying. That's a false, very false source. So with this challenge, this is the missionary style, the style of the new evangelization that Pope Francis suggests. He says, pastoral ministry in a missionary style is not obsessed with the disjointed transmission of a multitude of doctrines to be insistently imposed. When we adopt a pastoral goal and a missionary style which would actually reach everyone without exception or inclusion, the message has to concentrate on the essentials, says Pope Francis. The message has to concentrate on the essentials, on what is most beautiful most grand, most appealing, and at the same time, most necessary. I like this. I repeat, the message has to concentrate on the essentials, on what is most beautiful, most grand, most appealing, and at the same time, most necessary. Most necessary. Because again, if those people that we're meeting have already been intoxicated, the only way to present the good doctrine is going through this simple way of presenting what is most appealing, most beautiful, in a way that they can gradually clarify their minds, see the beauty that they were not seeing in the church or in the doctrine of the church, and then give you time from where you can then be able to present other aspects of the church's teachings. So the message has to concentrate on the essential, on what is most beautiful, most grand, most appealing, and at the same time most necessary. The message is simplified while losing none of its depth and truth, and thus becomes all the more forceful and convincing. So it requires from us the challenge to know what to say and how to say it, and to say it in a way that is going to be appealing and inviting them to know more, and helping them to ask questions. Oh, let me hear about that one more time. Yes, like, well, it wasn't the experience of St. Paul when he went to, when he preached somewhere, and then the people were saying, okay, about the resurrection, we'll listen to you next time. But some other people came towards him, Dionysius, etc. They came to him and said, okay, we would like to hear more about that. So the way we present the message should incite that interest in them to want to know more, because we have touched something that they were ignorant of, the most beautiful, the most grand, the most appealing, and the most necessary, and it is pulling them to want to know more. So what I will do now, to round it up, this second part, would be just to present quickly the challenges of today's world, because we are sent into a world that is full of challenges. I won't say everything, because I would instead invite you to read chapter 2 of Evangelium Gaudium, because in Evangelium Gaudium chapter 2, Pope Francis develops all the challenges that we know are in the world of today. And so those challenges we need to know, because it is the world to which we have been sent. So he is talking about many challenges. The majority of our contemporaries are barely living from day to day with dire consequences. A number of diseases are spreading. The hearts of many people are gripped by fear and desperation, even in the so-called rich countries. The joy of living frequently fades. Lack of respect for others and violence are on the rise. The inequality is increasingly evident. It is a struggle to live, and often to live with precious little dignity. This epochal change has been set in motion by the enormous, rapid advances occurring in science and technology. We are in an age of knowledge and information, which has led to new and often anonymous kinds of power. How is it that it is not news? It is not a news item when an elderly homeless person dies of exposure, but it is news when the stock market loses 2 points. Food is thrown away while people are starving. Many find themselves excluded, without work, possibilities, or means of escape. Human beings are discarded like consumer goods. Throwaway culture is spreading. No longer exploitation of those in society, because they are no longer even part of it. They are like leftovers. And so one of the causes of the economy of exclusion is we worship the ancient golden calf. Man has been reduced to consumption, needs alone, money all the time. Meanwhile, the earnings of a minority are growing exponentially, but so is gap between the rich and the poor minority, or the poor majority. So behind this attitude is a rejection of ethics and rejection of God. And so God is outside the market and is viewed as uncontrollable or manageable and even dangerous. So there are many negative aspects of social media, entertainment, threatening traditional values like sacredness of marriage and family. Even the Catholic faith is challenged by new religious movements, both fundamentalist and godless spiritualities, a reaction to materialism, consumerism, and individualism. but also sometimes that exploit the weaknesses of people living in poverty. Secularization reduces faith to private and to something private and something personal, rejecting or rejection of the transcendent, and it deteriorates the ethics, the way people behave. And so, despite this secularism, the church is still credible and trusted because of the concern that the church demonstrates for the needs of people. The church works as a peacemaker in many places, defender and teacher. But sometimes the church struggles to help others to see that we are faithful to the same convictions about human dignity and common good on questions less appealing to the public opinion. Family, fundamental cell of society, is experiencing profound cultural crisis. Marriage, looked at as a mere emotional satisfaction that can be constructed in any way or modified at will. Individualism weakens personal relationship and family bonds, and so on and so forth. The world and its challenges is very well presented in this second chapter of Evangelii Gaudium. And so this qualifies the need for a new evangelization, because more than ever before, the world needs that good news. The world needs to hear that in Jesus Christ there is hope, that in Jesus Christ there is life, there is happiness, there is true freedom. If the world is caught up in whatever it is caught up and is upside down, it's simply because the world is turning their back to God. And for that reason, new evangelization is not only necessary, it is urgent. And we, you and I, are called to take the lead from where we are in simple, gentle steps to spread that good news with personal witness, convictions, going forth, working as a community, and of course, adopting that style, which is a style of respect, going gently, presenting the most noble, the beautiful part of our faith. And this is what the world needs to see and to hear. And they can only see and hear from us through Christ our Lord.